Good afternoon, Chuck Karstensen. Remax Results with another hope and encouragement show. This one will be the last show of the 2020 year. We'll certainly continue with both the real estate shows and some form of this show in 2021. And since we are approaching the New Year's, we are going to be talking today in a moment about what becoming new, what you can do as you turn the clock 2021. I know a lot of people want some changes and adjustments, and typically any new year there are a lot of people who set new goals, create a new vision, and have some new ideas or resolutions to make their life a little more better, effective, fulfilled, whatever the word is for you. So I'm going to talk about that today. I thought it was appropriate timing from that. Of course, again, if you watched this before, we'll take the messages from a daily devotional I've been writing. And I started writing this, as people know, back in April. If you watched this before, today I finished. I have 366 devotionals written. That's a 1-year-long book. I have some work to do in editing, but I do now plan to publish them in book form. The early ones I wrote before I decided to write a book weren't the same style, so I need to make some adjustments on those to make it flow better. So I have some work to do, but I reached goal number one of actually physically having 366 written. So there's a bunch that haven't been posted. I've got that's enough content to post one a day until the end of April. So plenty of things to work on with that. Thanks again for watching. If you're tuning in live or watching the recording, or if you're listening on the Real Life Impact podcast show, reminder, this show and our other real estate show can be heard on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Real Life Impact Facebook page, or I've linked it on a couple of the Facebook posts or the YouTube posts as well. So you can find those. A lot of places you can find the show, and a few people listen to it, and hopefully a few more, and a few more. You're certainly welcome to share it, and always welcome to comment. I believe I posted one comment from one of the readings. I'm going to actually do 2 readings today. I'm going to post another link to the number 2 one that I'll be reading in a moment. And these were written back in September, shared on my blog, but it is appropriate, becoming new. Like in the new year, most of you would agree that New Year's resolutions, what people say, they don't really work. People quit them in a day, a week, a month, or whatever it is. Goals do work all right, but they're just goals. And most people associate goals with something they normally don't attain, but it'd be nice to have. And then what I've been working on better, and it's been very, very hard for me over the years of being a goal setter, being in the realm of working spiritually and personally on myself. And this has been hard. I'm admitting it, is creating a vision and purpose for my life. You've probably heard people do that before. For whatever reason, that seemed hard to me. Maybe it's hard for you, and you're welcome to comment on that. Like, hey, I'm good at that, or I don't even know what that means. I don't know where to start. If you set goals, comment on that. If you set resolutions, comment on that. Those are all good. Whatever you do to better yourself or to help other people around you, those are all good. I just had a struggle to put all this together. It's not really until this year. I mentioned before, COVID's been a blessing for me. A lot of reasons. We continue in my household to work on our health and wellness, and I think COVID's an eye-opener for health and wellness for people. More time together with the family, less travel. So maybe I took any hours I would be doing recreation and put it into 2, obviously writing the devotional, and a lot into business. We had a good year in business, but it was more work. And it's, in real estate, it's not easy. It seems like easy to somebody who lists a house and it sells quickly, but it's not easy if you're a buyer to get one. Maybe if you're a realtor, it's not always easy to find the listings, to put them on the market, those kind of things. And then there's all kind of landmines within every real estate deal. So it tests your faith every day, is what it does when you're a realtor, or maybe most of your jobs test your faith. Totally would say everybody's got things that would test their faith. And renewing your mindset, becoming new, it's a work, it's a progress and a process that, you want to work on and get better at. But it's been a blessing to be able to do this, write the material, whether not many people read it, a decent amount of people read it, or it becomes a great blessing to people, just helping me become new, renew my mind, check my faith, check my congruency to my faith. Obviously, along the way, there's always bumps in the road. It's not going to be perfect. but it's really helped elevate my thought process and got me to a point where I feel like I'm actually creating a vision and a purpose, more of a design for my life that I struggle to just comprehend and put together in the past. So a lot of people are there where they don't know how to do that. A lot of people are working on it, and some people are doing really well at it. And this time of year, or maybe even early in the year, you probably were thinking of some of these things. So today's message, I gotta flip my screens. I still read these and look at you when I do these, or look at my screen and sort of look at the post, the Facebook. So if you have a comment, I'll miss it for a little bit. I took these readings from Ephesians 4:22 is the first one, and then 4:23 and 24 in the second one. And what I titled this back when I posted it on my blog, which the link should now be in the comments, back on September 22nd, is putting off your former self. And remember, I'm writing these daily and post them out daily. So some of them, every once in a while, is a sentence that speaks to something I wrote the day before or the day before that. And you certainly, when you see those links below and you click on these links here, if you wanted to, you could read the previous messages or future messages as well, whatever you'd like to do for your encouragement. So to get to becoming new, as we hit the new year and you want some new things or some changes or adjustments, really a lot of this is just the slight little adjustment. It's not necessarily a total pivot, but a lot of people, because of COVID, have had to pivot. A lot of people don't know how to pivot and like, how do I pivot and make this work? Things aren't working the way I want. And the biggest pivot I would recommend, or the biggest thing I would recommend that I'm doing myself, I've done it for years, since I, basically accepted Christ in my life back in, say, 2005 or 6 time frame. Before that, I'd gone to church a little bit, didn't really understand it. And then I accepted Christ, and I was in my infancy of my faith, trying to understand it, looking, reading, searching, going to Bible study. And then I started to grow a little bit. And long story short, now here's where I'm at now. I expect to continue to grow as best I can each, week, month, year going forward. I'm not done. I'm just getting started, but I'm 15 years into my just getting started. So wherever you're at is fine. It's perfect. The reward is stored up for you and is available to you. Nothing is lost if you're just getting started on your faith journey now. Now, back to that September 22 post that I titled, Put Off Your Former Self, from Ephesians 4:22. Here's Ephesians 4:22. You were taught, with regard to your former way of life, to put off your old self, which is being corrupt by its deceitful desires. Sounds a little bit harsh. Maybe you're not corrupt and you don't think you have deceitful desires, but bear with me. You'd have to obviously read some of the other posts, and I'll read my message now. So another way to look at it, if you did read my message from the previous day on this, if you clicked on the link, or just in general, is that seeing anything that takes you off your path from God, assuming you want to get on a path to God, or that's something you're choosing to do now or going forward or this day, is your former way of life. Like something that takes you off path that you don't want to do anymore is your former way of life. Even if you default to your old self, which does happen from time to time, remind yourself in this new year, in this new you, in this transformation you're trying to make, that you have been that way in the past, but you're a new creation in Christ. So one reason why preachers, teachers, whatever, say accept Christ, receive Christ, because by receiving Christ, you now have the ability to become a new creation. You can put off your old self. And that's why this is the big importance of receiving Christ, especially obviously in the Christian religion. And maybe it's a difference from other religions. I'm not 100% certain how other people receive their main figure in religions. But what I'm saying is, once you receive Christ, you're receiving the fact that you can put off that old self. It's forgiven. It's in the past. You're re-reconciled. And then you can more quickly turn back from the old self things that draw you in and move forward in the ways of God. This is not all in the message. I'd like to ad-lib a little bit and explain more. Also, do not, in the message I wrote, also do not condemn yourself for the fact that some of the deceitful desires that you have had in the past circulate through your thoughts from time to time. There are thoughts and then there are actions. When you hold your thoughts captive to Christ, meaning once you begin to learn and understand more of the knowledge of God, you want to follow his way instead of your former ways, then that means you're taking appropriate actions. And it starts with baby steps. Like I said a moment ago, 2006, in my infancy of my faith. There's different steps and actions I take now. So not all your thoughts are going to be Christ-like thoughts. Obviously, don't condemn yourself when you have those thoughts that aren't Christ-like. And there's a lot of them. I mean, people might think, well, what's a non-Christ-like thought? Anything that takes you off your path that you want to, want to be more, more in tune with the promises of God. Could be, but it's not a thing that you have to condemn yourself for. And that's why we take up our cross daily and die to the flesh. There's a lot of symbology, a lot of ways you can take scriptures that sound like, why would I want to carry my cross? If you're just like me before I accepted Christ and went to church and read these stories and went to my church classes and went to church once or twice a week, and like, that seems awful to take off the cross. Why would I do that? It's a way for you to like, wait a minute, I've got to change my thought process. I've got to receive the grace of the new day. Die to the flesh, meaning don't go the fleshly, earthly ways. Go to the spiritual ways, which some things aren't that different. It's just that slight adjustment, and your life gets better for doing that. And that's something I've been working on and getting better at. And like I've said in the past, not perfect at. We need these reminders from time to time as we continue to equip ourselves with the full armor of God. We can walk around strong and confident that the Spirit of God is doing its perfect work in us. Right where you're at, there's perfect work happening in your life. Even if things are a total mess, receive the grace of the new day. Give praise for what you're going through, thanksgiving for what you're going through, and obviously part of becoming new is to look at things with a new attitude, new spirit, with a mind of Christ, not on how they appear, but on how you believe they will appear and what you're called out of and into when you take up the path of God. And here's the meditation for that one. Making sure my camera's on. Lord, thank you that I'm a new creation in you, that I gave up my old self, my former ways of life, to a life of fullness in you and with you. I'm going to come back to my screen, even though I've always been on my screen. Just want to make sure I'm still there. So that is part of message one, kind of putting off and being aware and understanding of your old self, the things that can pull you off, and getting back on track. So one of the interesting things about doing a podcast like this and a broadcast like this, when you're a realtor, not a preacher, some people are like, well, why are you talking about this? Why isn't that private? Why isn't that personal? And I've probably mentioned this on one other show. I'm planting seeds for helping somebody. There's somebody that might just be on my path that's on nobody else's path, and I want to help them. I would encourage you to seek out other people for your spiritual encouragement, whether it's your local church or like I listen to Joel Osteen podcasts very often. I listen to other things, read other books, and as far as my spiritual improvement. So I would totally encourage you to seek that out and help you grow. And obviously put that, when they say put God first on your list, sometimes for people it seems super like hard. Why would I do that? I know from my experience what's happened this year, what's happened even in the past, even in the things that I went through that haven't been good. It is truth. Like when you grow in the things of God, when you look to God first, there's promises that line up that can help you. So I'm going to take a drink and we'll read the next one and tell you about that one. So the next post which was posted September 23rd. It's put on the new self. So get rid of the old self, put on the new self, Ephesians 4:23-24. To be made new in the attitude of your minds and to put on your new self, created to be like God in true righteousness and holiness. That's part of what you're looking to do in general. Even if you're somebody who doesn't follow the path of God, never heard this, and you see somebody doing resolutions, goals, vision, planning, purpose, what's happened to them, they put on the new attitude. And they've got a new self and a new esteem to go forward. For me, for sure, I read and learn and grow in the things of God, and that helps me want to do better, want to be more congruent in what I'm doing, and want to help other people. So to move forward from your old self and former ways of doing things, for some time you will want to really practice your new attitude in life. God's ways are natural ways of being and doing. However, the world has conditioned us and conditioned most people in its ways, like we're conditioned in the world's ways. So you have to spend time like you're doing if you're somebody who's read my blog or listened to this material or listen to other people or read other people's materials like I just mentioned, to re-engage with the mind of Christ and the heavenly way of doing things. Much like an athlete conditions their body for their sport, or musician spends time working on their skill, you will need to spend time working on your spiritual mindset. You can visualize yourself as you put on the new self, and it's easier to do when you know you're created to be like God. And even if it even gets easier when you understand that God is living inside you and waiting to be drawn out into the natural even more than you're already doing so already. So we'll talk a little bit more about this in a minute. When the attack and distractions of the world come at you, the new attitude will help you respond differently. You will quickly be able to put on your new self, and knowing you have access to the Christ mind and that you were created to be like God in true righteousness and holiness, your response to the world will be one of light, love, peace, more often than not. So in some ways, when I talk about the Christ mind and God living inside of you, some people get that. Some people are like, that's just a little abstract for me. I don't get it. We're not going to spend a ton of time on that today, but know as you develop, spend time working on this. If that's what you desire to do, you will start to understand the promise of God better, the things that God has specifically called you, purposed you, anointed you to do. They will start to come forth, and you'll start to feel better about what's happening, even if it's not great in your life right now. You'll feel like there is a plan and purpose that you're working toward, and certain blessings will quickly happen to light the path for you. And then obviously, when things happen to you, you'll start to respond with a different light, love, and peace, like I mentioned in the story. So one of the things that I would like anybody to do, and I'm sure you would like to do in the new year, even if you didn't really make the decision to do it, you would like people to respond to you with light, love, and peace. They don't have to tell you, hey, I'm sending you light, love, and peace. What if they're kinder, more compassionate to you? What if you were kinder and more compassionate to people? What if you're great at this and want other people to be great at it too, and you could help them? There's a lot of ways, a lot of things you can do. But putting on the new self is really making the decision to make this a priority in your life. As somebody like me, I work out a lot. My wife started the 75 hard program with a friend 2-3 days ago, and I'm like, I don't want to do that. You got to work out outside for 45 minutes, like do a walk or a run, or this time of year maybe cross country skiing, whatever it is, ice skating. Work out inside 45 minutes, and then read 10 pages from a book and eat. Don't break your diet. Don't cheat. Don't drink any alcohol. And some of the stuff, no problem. I work out a lot inside, but this time of year working out outside. But I told myself, I'm going to do this as well as possible so she has their chance of success. And I do want to lose a few pounds, even that, I'm in good shape compared to most people. I'm put on a little bit of weight, though, during COVID. Some of it's probably muscle, I'm sure. Anyway, that's a commitment to put more time into that. Health and fitness is one of my top priorities. Also, one of my top priorities is growth, personal growth, learning and growing. And that's what you do when you spend time with God. You're learning and growing in the things of the Spirit. So if this is a little bit too challenging for you, but you would like to have a little bit more of goodness in your life, a little better momentum, a little better attitude, then make health and fitness a priority starting in the new year. Make growth and learning a priority. And then sprinkle in some of these kind of materials so you feel like you're making progress. It is hard to dive all in. Like I'm saying, I work out a lot. When I'm talking about the 75 hard, I'm like, that seems hard. So I'm not saying you need to dive in. I'm saying you need to start to sprinkle it in. And maybe you're at the point you can dive in, or maybe you do want to dive in. It's up to you. You choose. It's going to make your life better. Some people don't have the understanding of awareness of it. I can't always just explain it. Sometimes I got to live my life in a way that would hopefully shed light on others. And if you sit by me at the wrong basketball or wrong football game this year, you'd probably be like, this guy writes a devotional. So it's not like we're always perfect at this stuff. I like to critique the other teams, fans, or referees. I think I'll be done with that. I don't think I can go to basketball games this year from what I've heard, how they made the rules in COVID in Minnesota, but we'll see. Anyway, I'm saying that not to diminish any of this. I'm saying this that we're not perfect. We're all work in progress, and you have to put work in daily, just like you would, like I mentioned before, whether you're athlete, musician, or you're working on your health and fitness, or whatever you're working on. So thank you for watching, listening. Please share, comment, like it. Subscribe to my podcast, Real Life Impact Podcast. I want to remind people about that. And otherwise, I'm wishing you a happy and prosperous new year. Hopefully in this new year, becoming new, like I talked about today, is something you do want to add to work on. But don't add it like a resolution that's got to be perfect all the time. Add it as a work in progress, that you're working on your spiritual mindset. And anytime you dip into those thoughts that are of your old self, that you quickly realize that's not you anymore, and you can move yourself back into the more uplifted, spiritual, learning and growing things of God mindset to help shift you and not condemn you, because that's not what spiritual life is about. It's about receiving the grace of the new day and living your best and fullest life, being blessed to be a blessing. So thanks for tuning in, and have a blessed day, and hope to talk to you again soon in the new year. Thanks again, everybody.